Hi, Capt Mike here with you again. Today we are going to mix up some dry glaze. Lots of videos on how to do this. Some of them leave out some steps, some of them don't make good sense, some of them are great. I'm going to try to keep this as simple as possible and try to explain to you why you're asked to do certain things. Now, this is a high fire cone 6. It'll fire to either 5 or 6 dry glaze from the ceramic shop. There's lots of them. They all mix the same. But before we get started actually doing this, let me tell you what you're going to need. You're going to need some gloves, okay? You're going to need maybe some eyewear. I don't worry about it too much. I wear glasses, but you know, if you feel comfortable, wear eyewear. There's not going to be any flying metal parts in this, but I always recommend eyewear. But the most important thing you're going to need is an approved respirator, a really good respirator. I will not be wearing the respirator for this video. It's going to be a short one. I'm going to be very, very careful about how much dust I make, and that's the safety equipment you're going to need. In addition to safety equipment, you're going to need, I use a little cheap strainer that comes from the Dollar Tree. That mesh is fine enough, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. You're going to need some kind of a spoon to stir with, probably. Maybe a whisk. Have it all out just in case. You're going to need a bucket that's at least 2.5 gallons. This one, old Buck wasn't so lucky, but hey, I got the bucket. Make sure it's clean. You're going to need some water, which I have in this little container right here. And you're probably going to need some scales. If you don't have any scales, can't get them over there. Come on, scales. If you don't have any digital scales, go out and buy you some. They're not very expensive, and these are dirty, nasty. I've done everything with them, but they're just invaluable, okay? So you start off, and the first thing that you want to do is read the instructions. They also have the instructions online, but they're very clear here. They tell you to mix 12 ounces of water for every pound of dry mix. We have 6 pounds right here, so we know that's going to be about 72 ounces of water. It is suggested that you mix it a little on the thick side. In other words, if you want to go with 70 ounces, fine. It's not going to hurt anything. It's going to mix. And it is easier to go back and add water than it is to take it out. The only way to take it out is let it evaporate. So that's all on here. And like I said, the instructions are easy to read. Now, as I said, this is a cone 5 to 6 glaze. And it matures somewhere around 2200 degrees, 2230, 2250, somewhere in there. If, after you get this mixed up, all the good stuff wants to settle to the bottom of the pot and you have a lot of water on top, it's not a big deal. Get you some gum arabic. Well, actually, let me back up. The gum arabic is not for that. If it settles to the bottom, you want to use Epsom salts. Just mix you some up in some water, dump a little bit of water in there, a little bit of the mixture in there, and stir it all up. It'll keep this from settling. That is Epsom salts, okay? Now, the gum arabic is if you want to brush this. The instructions I'm going to give you are for spraying or dipping, more or less. And if you want to paint it on with a paintbrush, then add a little gum arabic. If you're not sure or you can't find any instructions, send these people a message, or anybody, whether it's Coyote, whoever it is. They will always get back to you and say, hey, this is how much, this is what we recommend. So get all your ducks in a row, and hopefully I have mine in a row, and we're going to mix some of this stuff up, okay? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a pot. Let me see if I can open up this up just a little bit so we can have a little bit more room, okay? There you go. That's just a little bit more better. Okay, first thing you want to do is pour your water in there. And you can get rid of all that. And then you're going to take your strainer. Now, I wondered for the longest why you had to strain this stuff. I said, gee, there must be some really bad stuff, hard particles or impurities or something in this, and so they want you to strain it. That's not so. I'll show you in a minute why they want you to strain it. And I'm going to go slow, so if I quit talking or something, it's because I don't want to stir up a lot of dust. I'm so old, it's probably not going to kill me anyway, but it doesn't matter. Let's not take any chances. So we'll put the thing there. All right, come in a nice little zip bag. People do different things. So what you do is open your bag, and this has holes in it, but hopefully it'll dip. And you just start dipping it out very slowly. You could dump it, but like I said, I'm trying to keep the stuff down. And what you want to do is sift it until it goes all the way through your strainer. And I'll show you what the strainer is for in just a second. But this is what you do. You just kind of put it down in the water. Now, a little tip here is if you don't have a respirator, or even if you do, if you've got a little bitty fan or some kind of a fan, put it across there. This is what I usually do. If I do this outside, and I'll turn on one of my outside fans, and that blows any of the debris away. Now, see what you're left with? All right, all them little junk bunches. In most of the dry glazes I've done, let me interject here, I'm not an expert. I just have got into dipping glazes, and I'm not real fond of it, and I'm not very good at it. But they all have one thing in common. They all have these little parts, and a lot of times the little parts are white. What material that is, I'm not sure. I could find out, but I don't know. But I do know there'll be a lot of stuff like this. So what I do, and what you're supposed to do, is put it back over your bucket and of course, I don't have my gloves on, do I? Well, I'll wash my hands when I'm through here, I promise. And you just kind of work it through like that. Yeah, this is one of them do as I say, not as I do things. You adults know all about that. Okay, you see there's some red residue, whatever it was, just kind of balled up red stuff. So anyway, that's what you do. You will continue to do this until you have all 6 pounds, 5 pounds, 10 pounds, whatever you have bought, sifted up. Okay, now I'm not going to bore you with sitting here sifting out 5 pounds of this stuff. So we get this stuff sifted out, and I'll be back, and we will go from there. Okay. Okay, we've got all this stuff strained into the water, and it's not mixed up quite good enough yet, but as you can see, it's pretty thick. Okay, it's pretty thick. So it's going to need a little bit more water. I put 72 ounces in here. It's going to take a little bit more. You just put it a little at a time and keep stirring it up, and stir it up and stir it up until it's the consistency you want. Now back to this strainer. You see, that's just a little discoloration left in there. There's not really anything in it. You can almost, that's all the, I would say, trash or debris that was in it, and probably most of that would go through the strainer. Now with that said, once you get this to the consistency you want it, let it sit for about 24 hours. It will, the water and the materials will mix properly. You might want to come back and stir it every once in a while. But I'd let it sit for a little while, and before I used it. There are videos on YouTube that will tell you how to determine the consistency. I would tell you how I do it, but it all has to do with what you want to do. Pretty much, that's way too thick, okay? That's way too thick. So I get it down to consistency of between buttermilk and milk, but that's just me. And let it sit. Once you start dipping this, if it's the right consistency but you get bumps in it, then get you about a 60 grit. This is a little more than 60 grit. Get you a little finer strainer, pour the glaze through the strainer again into a clean bucket, and that will remove any of the bits that have not hydrated properly. And once you do that, you have a glaze. Now glazes are mostly higher glaze, mid to high glaze range glazes. There are some low fire dry glazes that you can mix if you think that you want to dip them. You'll have to do your research. I mixed up, I think, 2 raku glazes the other day that were dry, and then I ordered this one so I could make this video. And actually it's going to be what they call crocus red. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what that looks like. So we're gonna let this sit for a while. First we're gonna thin it, then we're gonna let it sit for a while, and then I am going to dip a little bowl in it. We'll fire it, and I'll get back to you and show you what the end results are. Okay, we're back with you with the finished product from this glaze here that we mixed up earlier. It was called Crocus Red from the ceramic shop. It is a 5 to 6 glaze. I purchased 6 pounds, and I mixed it in 72 ounces of water, stirred it up, and I dipped a cup. I think this was the first one that I dipped, or maybe it was this one. Yeah, it was this one. I dipped it. It was some of my red clay, and it didn't come out what I expected, but it's pretty. It's got a very, very dark, almost black undertone, and it seems to have these highlights of copper. So I said, well, I need to do it on some white. So I did. I did it on a piece of white test, and it does the same thing, as you can see. It didn't make a lot of difference. This was dipped. This one was painted with a brush, as was this one. It didn't seem to make a lot of difference whether I painted it with a brush or not. That's just another one that was done same way. I think I painted it with a brush. So this is the finished product for this Crocus Red. Now I'm going to take this particular point in time to point out something about dry glazes when you're buying them 6 pounds and better that you need to be aware of. You really need to make sure what color you're getting. Me, I reordered just some dry glaze so I could make this video. I had already mixed up everything I had on hand, and I wasn't really sure about this, so I ordered it. But what you end up with is a couple of gallons of glaze that you don't particularly like, or you're probably not going to use on stuff. So a lot of times it's better to go with some pre-mixed paint or something before you order the glaze. Someone like myself, I consider myself a hobbyist, or just I do this for fun, grins and giggles. You know, now I've got a whole bunch of this junk I'm gonna have to do something with, and that's just something you need to be aware of. Now, one of the things that I want to point out also is they said mix this in 72 ounces of water, which I did. It is very, very thick. It's you can see here, you see it's thick. It's really too thick for me. You might like that for what you do, but I saved some water, and every time I'd clean off my whisk or something, I just do it in this water. I have 28 ounces of water here, 20 ounces. I'm gonna put about 10 in it. We're gonna see, yeah, that's about 10. And you know, so add your water slowly as you mix it up. I like it to be a little on the thin side, but that's just me. I'm no expert on this, and by any means am I an expert on this. You know, look at the videos, watch the videos. Man, there is a ton of videos. Okay, that's a little bit better. It drips instead of flopping. I might add a little bit more when I'm through with this video, but that's pretty good. So, you know, save you a little water, and when you get through with your whisk, you know, drop it in the water. I don't know if this makes a difference. To me, it just seems, I'm just real cheap. Add colored water instead of clear water. It doesn't really matter. And that's what you'll get. Now, I've got a real quick tip for you guys on making something here, and I'll be out of your hair for a while anyway. This is normally what I use to pick up stuff to dip with. You pick it up, you dip it in, and fine. And it's great. It works okay. You get down to some little bitty stuff. Sometimes you need something a little smaller. Or maybe it's fragile. So I made these out of a pair of forceps. And it's real simple. I'm going to show you how to make these. You see the little tip on them right here? Yeah, there's a tip. See how I done those? It's real simple to do. All you need is one of these, Harbor Freight salvage, or Harbor Freight, they're not salvage anymore. It's Harbor Freight, probably less than 20 bucks. You'll have to go somewhere else to get the propane or the butane that goes in it. It goes right in the bottom, and you just shoot some in it, and then you turn this thing on, and just buy you a set of forceps. You probably can get these at Harbor Freight too, but if you can't, you can pick them up on eBay, Amazon. Just cheap stainless steel forceps. Don't pay a lot for them. These are large ones. I'd say they're 10 inches, maybe 12. But you take your propane and you heat the tip right here. You can see where I heated these. You can see about how far back I went. You can see the blue on them. You heat them, and when you get them red hot, then you just grab them where you want them bent, right here, with a pair of pliers. I use these type here. You can use vice grips, and holding on to this part, you just bend them. Just bend them on down to whatever angle you want. Flip them over, rinse and repeat. Heat them up, red hot, bend them over. You end up with a pair of forceps with some nice little tips. They pick up all kinds of small stuff very easy. They're easier to use on small stuff than these. Okay, that's the only tip I've got for today. And I hope you try some dry glazes. If you dip a lot of stuff, it's the way to go. Dry glazes are the way to go. But if you just want to experiment, remember, don't be a dummy like me and end up with 2.5 gallons of something you're not particularly fond of. Try a pint first. So that's it. I'm Captain Mike. That's my video for today. See you guys later. I'm out of here.